Tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi mahana kia koutou. Welcome councillors, staff, members of the public, and board member Knowles, welcome. Thanks for travelling over to join us here today. We're going to begin with karakia. He karakia tātou, tuia ki runga, tuia ki raro, tuia ki roto, tuia ki waho, tuia tātou te tangata, ki te kaupapa o te hui nei, ki te kaupapa o te rangi nei, mauri ora ki a tātou katoa, bind above, bind below, bind within, bind beyond, bind us the people to the purpose of our meeting, to the purpose of this day, and breathe life into all of us. Thank you. Some housekeeping. We have media here, Max in the room, and Catherine, I think, up on Zoom. Welcome. And we don't have any councillors or board members on Zoom today. And just to note that the meeting is being recorded, and I think we all here know around toilets, exits. Move to apologies. We've got an apology from Councillor Greening and from Mayor Tim. Somebody happy to move the apologies? Councillor Ellis, seconded Councillor Dowler. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. We have no speakers in public forum. Are there any declarations of interest? No. We need to confirm minutes. That the minutes of the Environment and Regulatory Committee meeting held on Thursday, 19 October, be confirmed as a true and record of the meeting. Is somebody happy to move that? Councillor Maru. Councillor Dakey, seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. We'll move to Kim Drummond. Welcome, Kim, and your group manager's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. And just in relation to the minutes, there were a couple of action items, I think, that just flowed on from that. So, Councillor Kinnemoff, you were wanting to know a little bit more about the scope of the proposed CAP bylaw. I understand you've got that information now.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Adrian, you were to follow up on the signage that was associated with the sewage, potential sewage inflow into the estuary. That matter has been attended to.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did send an email last week, but it's the people who deal with it are our engineering services. They liaise with our environmental health team and with Te Whatu Ora. In the case of the most recent flow into the Motueka estuary, the signs were up before because it was a planned release because the sewage plant was over capacity. In addition to actually putting the signs up in place in coordination with Te Whatu Ora for our environmental health team, they also went down to the areas where the sewage had been released and the rahu was in place. And they talked to the people who were down in whitebaiting, and they got a pretty short shrift from them saying, basically, we don't care, we're going to carry on whitebaiting. So in addition to having the signage in place, they actually did do some follow-up down there. So they had it covered more than normal. If there's an accidental spillage, as soon as they find out about it, they then activate to put signs out in place.
In the third area, I think, Darren, you might be online. There was a request that we initiate the comms around the swimming issues that may or may not take place around criteria over the summer months, and the request was for a communications plan to be put together around that. And I'm thinking that maybe Darren can speak to that.
Yeah, we're just following up on that at the moment. The overflow from Motueka, though, does not affect criteria 2, but the water testing begins on the 27th. It's our standard summer water testing for the coastal areas. So I believe that will be covered there, and the appropriate comms will go out around that.
Thank you. Now just move, so those were all of the action items that came through from the last meeting. In terms of the group manager's report, I'll take that as read. What I will note about it is that in recent times, we've been carrying a bit of commentary that's what's happening on the national scene with the different legislative reforms that have taken place, and they've been at the end of the previous government come through into legislative requirements. And we've been sort of socialising those with the committee in regards to particularly the compliance implications and the consenting implications. It's a little bit of a flat spot with that at the moment, with the coalition discussion still going forward, and we're unclear as to which parts of that legislation will survive the sort of the 100-day sort of test. So it's a wait and see on that. So most of the matters that I'm raising here in my report are just localised, and it does include obviously an acknowledgement that Adrian's finishing up with us and moving on to greener pastures. But other than that, I'll take the report as read and happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Greener and perhaps more chilly pastures. But, questions of the group manager's report. Deputy Mayor Bryant has something, and then Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for you. Just in relation to the action items, you talked about some extra information around the CAT bylaw for Councillor. Could I also have a copy of that, please?
Sure.
Yeah. And
we'll send it around.
Waving of hands in this area over here.
And that's all from me. I was just indicating we didn't talk about the action.
Right. Thank you. Councillor Butler.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Firstly, I'd just like to acknowledge Adrian Humphreys, and it's because of our involvement with Adrian over protecting shorebirds in Golden Bay, and thank you to Adrian for supporting and giving us clear direction. My question is 3.4. I wondered if you could just explain what you mean by a new position, team leader business support, and the role will provide support to streamlining services that are or could be cost recovered. Could you just explain what you mean by that? Thank you.
So we've had the opportunity to look at the way our regulatory team is structured to support the frontline activities. And at the moment, we run a system where our business support is attached to the particular teams that have particular functions, whether it's compliance, whether it's roads, whether it's animal control. And so they've got dedicated admin support. What we've looked at is an opportunity to bring that capacity together, so we've got more backup and more cross-skilled in our business support. So we've worked through a process that will create a team leader for that function, as opposed to those individuals being attached to the teams. It's neutral in terms of FTEs because it's recycling a role into that. But also with the new legislation that is upon us, and also in other situations, we see opportunities where more of a user pays component can come back in. Sometimes the laws enabled that and we haven't necessarily been accessing it. And now we've got new laws, if they stay the course, which actually sets up different disciplines, and most particularly in the compliance space. So it's going to require quite a different discipline running across the business support function to maximise the utility of the different provisions that we've got, which of course lightens the load on the ratepayer where they're currently funding these sorts of services.
Anything further? Yes, Councillor Kinnermont and then Councillor Dowler.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Adrian, thank you so much for all your work. You'll be sorely missed around here, I think. And I'd just like to tell the group here that one weekend, a month or so ago, a boat got wedged underneath the wharf at Mapua. And who was out there but Adrian on the weekend sorting it out. So thank you very, very much for all your help. I've got a little question that I think was done at the last meeting. Little hydro, the little wee jet boat, whatever you call it. you're looking at replacing that, possibly with a jet ski, and I'm putting words in your mouth here. How's that replacement coming along? Jared, do you mind if I stay sat here because I'm up next?
I do welcome, yes.
For you, Madam Chair, Hydro is budgeted to be replaced in the 24-25 financial year. I think the Deputy Harbour Master wants to replace it with a jet ski, but it will obviously be a decision for the new Harbour Master how they replace Hydro, but I doubt it will be a jet ski at the moment. Sorry.
Councillor Dalla.
Yeah, once again, I'll just say thanks to Adrian over the 12 years you've been here. We've had a fair bit to do with each other over time. Even the Gita guys or the Gita goons that we looked after, 3 van loads after the storm, worked very well together, I think, and achieved a lot for the orchards out in our way, and they really appreciated it. There was something here I was going to talk about, but no, it can wait. I'll talk offline, I think, but yeah, it was mainly just thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Maru, then Councillor McKenzie. And can I just say our CEO's joined us, Hedwig Kiakwe Janine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Adrian, I just too want to acknowledge you. Is that I haven't always liked the answer, but I've always got a straight answer, and I've always got a fair answer. So I really appreciate the fact that it didn't matter who you're interacting with, it was a straight answer. And thank you, and I wish you well in your next endeavours.
Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you very much. Through you, Chair. Of course, Adrian, most people from Southland actually shift up to Nelson, so it's very interesting that you're making the trip the other way. Wish you luck down there, and as a Southlander, I'm sure that they'll welcome you with open arms. So I wanted to thank you for your work as well, but I particularly wanted to reflect on the fact that, often our council staff, it's not just what they do as part of their role for council, but it's also the role that they play in our local communities as well. And I'm particularly mindful of the great talk that you gave, Adrian, at one of the Wakefield Anzac Day services. And so really just want to acknowledge the role that you play in the wider community. Thank you.
Anything further? We're going to go to Kim for some comments.
Thank you. And on behalf of Adrian, he's sitting there, just like to acknowledge the comments that the councillors have made towards Adrian's contribution. And of course, we will be recognising that at morning tea as well. Adrian does leave big shoes to fill, but we've filled them. So we do have a replacement for Adrian who luckily will be able to come up and spend a bit of time with Adrian before he leaves on the 15th. And I'll advise councillors of that in due course as to who that person is and a little bit about their background. We're also very close to concluding the appointment of the new Harbour Master, which will not report to that position, but will report directly to the Group Manager. So we're in the final stages of concluding those negotiations as well.
And I'd like to add my thanks to you, Adrian. It's quite a stint of service, isn't it? It's 12 years, and over that time, I imagine you've seen a heck of a lot of things come and go in terms of the events and matters you've been dealing with, how they've been dealt with, but also that range of national shifting, I suppose, as well. And there are a number of things I've appreciated about you. One of them is certainly your humour. I quite liked how close to the edge you like to get sometimes, and you're a very funny man, and it's brought some lightness at times. It's been very good. And I think in the times that things have happened at home in Golden Bay, maybe the boat that didn't really hit the media, not sure how they didn't find out about it, but the boat that broke up at Tata Beach quite recently. And might have been a weekend even that I rang you, or you're on leave or something. And I said, oh, I'll call somebody else. But it was just a reassurance to me to be able to hear from you about what was happening, how we were monitoring, is the diesel spilling, that whole range of things that you were over in a very clear way. That gives us a lot of reassurance that we know that our people are onto it, and whatever we need to be managing, that we are. So I think that's one of the strings to your bow, is your ability to be over things like that. I think that I think that there's been continual improvements through the compliance area generally, certainly in my short time here. This is my 4th year, but seeing the shifts in the level of training and I think professionalism that's been improving, I think is a credit to you. I just finished by saying I think that the area that you work in and your people and your team work in is very stressful. It's not easy. It's not easy ground that you're on. It's tricky. It's you know, you're dealing with people who are pretty stressed as well. So I think that the manner that you've gone about that is a real credit to you. And I think that when you arrive at Southland, you certainly arrive with your kit bag well stocked. Yeah, go well down there.
It's the same weekend too. The 2 events are on the same weekend.
Oh yeah, okay. And with that, I'm going to move the group manager's report. If somebody's happy to second it.
Everything.
Councillor Maru, all those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. We move to your final report for us, Adrian, your registry manager 6th monthly report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your kind words. I always struggle to accept appreciation, I'm afraid, so it confuses me a bit, but there you go. So for my 26th and final regulatory manager's report, I'll take it as read, Madam Chair, and if with your indulgence, I'll just highlight a few of the facts that as we go through. We lost a couple of staff members in the last 6 months. Kate Rodder retired, and Kate was one of those people you never see much of and you don't know much about, but she was the one administrating all of the development contributions that we get in council to support infrastructure development. And it's a pretty tough gig. Most people don't like paying taxes, ironically. And in her time here, she actually brought in about $30 million for the betterment of infrastructure for the benefit of our developers. So she did a really good job. And also, we lost Dan Kearney, who'd been our harbour master for 9 years, incredibly highly regarded throughout the community and throughout the council. But he left for the right reasons. He set himself up a new business now, working in Tasman and Nelson Bay, and he's doing very well. So they'll be sorely missed. On the actual work side, in food safety, we came to council about 18 months ago and talked about developing a quality management system to allow us to carry out inspections on national programmes. It's since transpired that an awful lot of the councils who were doing that on behalf of the Ministry of Primary Industries have opted out. It's just too expensive, too difficult, and there's not a great deal of benefit for the actual customers in their view. So our environment health team leader, Daniel Winter, reviewed that and we put it on hold at the moment. We can go if we need to go on to that. We have the sanction of council to go if we need to go on that from before. But at the moment, we've put that on hold because it's not a great deal of benefit for what it is. We've got the prosecution going ahead in Collingwood with a food premise owner there. It's public. It's in the court, so it's not something that we need to discuss confidentially. Because of the size of the penalty for this under the Food Act, it's actually been taken off us and it's being run through the Crown Prosecution Service. So you can if anything has a term of imprisonment above 18 months, it can be a jury trial, and because they've opted for a jury trial, it then goes to the Crown Prosecution Service. So the potential is 2 years in prison and or $100,000 fine. It's unlikely, but again, the judge will make a decision on that. And there's indicative sentencing on the 6th of December. Sale of alcohol, all I'll say about that is, first off, very well done to the District Licensing Committee on a very testing hearing in Mapua on an off-licence there. They did an incredible job, and it's seen by many as a model for how those things should be run, and to the staff involved in that as well. On the actual licences for the period, there looks like a massive drop in off licences down to 9, but these things are cyclic and they're not renewed on an annual basis in some cases. So you'll find next year or the year after you'll get a lot more off licence. So it's pretty cyclic at the moment. And we had a major rush after the pandemic for manager certificates, people coming into the industry with COVID rebounds. So that's fairly standard where we are at the moment with that. Health licenses, we're still getting more food premises opening up. Again, this is post-COVID, which is good. Business is coming back to the district. And so we had a significant rise, 15% rise in food control plans coming into the district. Noise is pretty standard for us. We have had a few noise complaints more than normal in the Richmond area. I think that's mainly because more people are living in Richmond and we've got a bit more urban intensity there. Although within the newer estates, it isn't so bad. And I think a lot of that's down to the way things are built. Houses are built these days, so you don't get a lot of noise coming out of them. So it's going quite well on that side. Our contractors, we reviewed all the contracts 18 months ago, and they're operating at a far better standard than some previous contractors were. So that's a real bonus. Dog registrations, we've had 858 dogs more registered at this date as there was at this time last year, and it seems an awful lot. And when I look at the figures, I'm not convinced they're entirely correct. I think the report we got out of the machine might have just counted the ones that are registered this time last year, but we have had a significant increase in dogs, at least 500 or 600, I would say. And that puts a lot more stress on our staff. It puts a lot more stress on our contractors. And we have to do a contract renewal process, which needs to be completed by July next year. And one of the things, depending, of course, who bids for the contract, we'll have to factor in is the fact that there's a lot more work around dogs going to be going on. It's a growing industry. We haven't prosecuted anybody in the last 6 months, but 3 owners of dogs decided to euthanize the offending dogs and take a fine and take a classification in one case as well, rather than be prosecuted. This is just like the problem was the dog, and in one case the owner, and they've decided to react appropriately, which means we didn't have to go to court wasting their money and the council's money to prosecute them, and we got the right result. We had 60 service requests alleging dog attacks, which seems like an awful lot. But what I just need to temper that with a little bit of context, in that some people think a dog attacks when a dog looks at them in a funny way, whereas other people might actually get savaged by a dog and say, "Oh, it's only a nip. You know, it's but a mere scratch." So whenever we get these complaints, whether they're from the victim or whether they're from somebody else reporting it to us, we do have to investigate them fully, and we do, and we take appropriate action when we do that. We managed to rehome 7 dogs through our rehoming partners. We work with Second Chance Dogs, ARC, and with the SPCA. So we get dogs new homes, which is really quite satisfying. And we've had 202 dog barking complaints. But I do emphasise there that many of these complaints come from a very small number of people who are fixated. But again, we deal with them appropriately when we get them. One feather in our cap, both in dog control and in Harbour Master, is the Clued Up Kids programme. I've mentioned this before to councillors, but I really do encourage you to visit the Clued Up Kids when it happens. It's once a year. It's normally in October, and we have about 700 or 800 school kids come through, and they learn about cycle safety, fire safety, water safety from the Harbour Master, dog safety, and it's a really, really good thing. This year it was in Motueka, and we, as I said, 740 kids, I think, this year. Other times it's at the A&P Showground in Richmond, but it's something that we really should keep supporting and works really well. Dog infringements, we're pretty steady on dog infringements. It looks like we're down, but that's mainly because we issued a lot of infringements in outside of this period after the 30th of September, especially for non-registration. People still continue to not register dogs, despite the fact they've been contacted at least 4 times. In some cases, we even go to their house and talk to them. And in those cases, we will infringe them. And last week, we actually started picking dogs off from people who haven't registered them in some cases. So it's a difficult part of the job. Wandering stock, we've removed stock from roads on 32 occasions in 6 months. Again, it's something you don't hear a lot about, because thankfully, not very often that vehicles get involved with hitting stock. So our contractors do a really good job there. We're still trying to pin NZTA down to get some financial support for this, because half of the stock we remove is actually on state highways. They run a major campaign last year nationally about stock on highways. And I was tapping into their managers about, well, what are we going to do locally on that? So it's an important one for us. Illegal dumping, we certainly haven't got it conquered, but we seem to reduce the incidences of that, mainly by use of remote cameras, collecting people's details when they do that illegally and taking action against them. And the legislation, which was going to quite significantly change the way in which we deal with waste and with litter, has been stalled because of the change of government, but it's expected to be released in early 2025. Parking control remains pretty steady. It pays for itself from the fines and income we get. We basically sort of stay on a fairly steady curve. Some of the money we get can be coming from as early as 2004, 2005, where they've collected fines off people when they've gone through the court system for something else. So that's an issue for us. One new thing that we've started doing quite a lot, there are a lot of people who associate themselves with the sovereign citizen movement who do not recognise any form of regulation, so they tend to drive vehicles with no registration, no warrant, and fake licence plates. Where we've actually come across these vehicles, we have the ability under the 1974 Local Government Act with the police to remove them from the road. And we've been doing that. We've done it on about 7 occasions now. And then they can either purchase the vehicle back once they've paid all the associated costs, or we sell it and recoup our costs for doing it. It's actually been quite effective in reducing the number of people acting in that way. And again, unwarranted, unregistered vehicles shouldn't be on the road anyway, especially, if it's just people being aggressive towards authority. Freedom camping. I must admit, one thing I won't miss is, we do have freedom camping in Southland, but I'll talk about it at a different time. But freedom camping is ramping up again this year already. I've had our control services contractors and some of my compliance staff out talking to people very early this year who look like they're here for a long patch and explaining to them what the rules are. The reality is we're going to get a lot of people coming this year. The difficulty, as always, is separating people who are generally homeless from those who just want to live that way and freedom camp. But we're doing our best to deal with that. But it'll be an interesting summer, I think, and we'll do our best to contain it as much as we can. The new legislation came out. The actual regulation came into force last month. And I've put a link in there for you to look at if you want to find out the main context of what's going on there. Primarily, it defines what a self-contained vehicle is better, so there's no confusion. There's a bit of a grandfathering period to allow some vehicles to still remain with their own status. The other parts of it, they put some ginormous fines in there for people not complying with the Freedom Camping Bylaws and Act, up to $2,400. A point I raised with the ministry when they first brought these out was, we can't get people to pay $200, so how are we going to get them to pay $2,400? However, it might have a deterrent effect for some. But we don't need to change our bylaw now. Our bylaw, as it is written, it sits within the new regulations, in that we're sort of covered in it. But it would be wise to review it in the not too distant future, probably after summer, when we see how we go this year. On the Harbour Master side, as Mr. Drummond indicated, we had a review carried out by Jim Dilly, who I've spent the last 2 days with down in Dunedin. Really experienced sailor, and he did a really thorough review of what we do, and he made recommendations about reporting lines for the Harbour Master and also possible additional resourcing, which was very well taken. Our commercial operators this year, they've all re-registered, and we've got one new one, I believe. And we had a meeting with them, which Councillor Walker attended last week at Kai Terry just to brief them on the season. And it was, I think, a very productive meeting. So we worked very closely with them. For those of you who don't know Kai Terry's got an inflatable world going in this summer. So you can go and bounce next to the water. So that was quite a topic of discussion at the meeting, but it looks like it's going to be a good summer. Our Harbour Master vessel is going fine, and we're in with our safety system. We breezed through that assessment this year. Seasonal buoys, they're all out, and they're out early. We make sure they're out before the 1st of December. We had to change some of the shape of Kai Terry because of the new bouncy park that's going there, but that seems to be going well. I've talked about Clued Up Kids. One thing we're coming across, and I mentioned this the last time I talked to council, we're getting some boats which aren't necessarily seaworthy, and they've got, in some cases, young families on who, for whatever reason, are living on them. I mean, and as an example, there's one family who've got 3 young children, and they want to go on Christian ministries around the Pacific Islands, but the boat they're in is not in a condition to go very far from shore at all. So we've been trying to coach these people as to what they need to consider before they go on any distant journeys, but it's very difficult to manage people living on boats. The regulation of private vessels is very, very different from cars, very, very different from commercial vessels, but we'll continue to work with them and try and keep them safe. The marine farms keep us busy as always, just checking up on what's going on there, and we have good liaison with them. The Motueka Spit channel guide is now on version 48. I think this is a real feather in the cap of the harbour master, the previous harbour master, and the ongoing harbour masters. When I first took over here, we used to get about 3 or 4 boats a month. Used to hit Motueka Spit. People floating in the water in some cases for hours, and never quite had a death. But we got some very blue, shivery people out of the water there. Since the channel markers have been in, we probably get about 1 or 2 a year. So it just shows with a bit of effort and education what can be done. And yeah, so that's a real feather in the cap of the harbour master crew there. I had a question from one of the councillors about launch wardens. We've actually gone down to 5. One of them retired last week, but we've got launch wardens in Mapua, in Tapu Bay, Torrent Bay, and over in Tarkaka. The Torrent Bay one actually is one that's retired, so we'll be looking at getting a replacement over there potentially. And we are always open to people applying to be launch wardens, so long as we check them out first. Large ship management in the moorings bylaw, they're elements of what the harbour master has sat ready to go, but we're waiting for the new harbour master to come in because they need to make sure they're all favoured with the process and then started to activate. And all spill response, Councillor Kinnamoff mentioned my weekend at Mapua retrieving the boat from under the dock. There's a lot of stories about that, but I can't share them in a public forum. But suffice to say, we retrieved the vessel, and we stopped an awful lot of oil getting into the water. And it was a really good example of community input as well. The Mapua Boat Club were incredibly helpful. We had input from Fire and Emergency locally, who assisted us with lighting systems and potentially some equipment which we didn't actually need in the end there. It was also council roading teams. I phoned them up and asked for control of access to the wharf, and they immediately had somebody come down and set up barriers for us. So it was successful as a collaborative effort across both our agency and other agencies as well. So it just shows the power of the whole rather than individuals going on there. So in short, I'm very proud to have run the regulatory team here and in the different forms it's been in for the last 13 years. I think we make a very real difference to the community. I mean, sometimes we'll get people complaining about our actions, but normally those people are complaining because they've been caught and they don't like complying with the rules, and that's unfortunate for them. But by taking action against them, we're protecting the whole community and the society in which we live. I think my main takeaways are what's always popular isn't always right, and what's right isn't always popular, and we need to be mindful of that when we're doing this stuff. And I think in this country, we're very lucky because it's the society which creates the rules and develops them, be they national rules or even local rules like our bylaws. So we need to be mindful of that. And finally, I think we've always tried to act with fairness and integrity. And if we ever do drop the ball on that, we own it, as we should. So thank you very much for the last nearly 13 years opportunity to be in this job. I'll make sure that my successor is up to speed as he can possibly be when he takes over. I'm already in contact with him. And yeah, thank you very much. I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Adrian. Deputy Mayor Bryce, then Councillor Walker, Councillor Dowler, and Councillor Shallcrest.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For you, firstly a question and then a comment. Question just in relation to 3.16, Adrian, which is the gunfire noise in Golden Downs. Certainly appreciate the work that you and particularly Tim have done in responding to the huge amount of correspondence that the Mayor and myself have had in relation to this matter. Are we getting any close to resolving the issue with the clubs?
Yeah. So for you, Madam Chair, Daniel Windsor, our environment health team leader, is a noise expert, has been up there as recently as the weekend before last. And it seems to be we're getting better compliance from the Pistol Club in particular. The Gun Club have been very largely compliant for quite a while. So we're getting positive progress there. But we haven't quite closed it on it yet, but we are moving along the bus as best we can.
Thank you. And just while I've got the floor, I would like to add my thanks to you for the work you've done over the 11 or 12 years you've been here. I've been here the whole time alongside you. It's been a real privilege to work alongside you. As your report shows, you've got a wide range of areas to cover, and you've got a real depth and breadth of knowledge of all of those areas. So it's really been appreciated by us around the table. You have a real passion for the job and the community, as it's shown this morning with your report. And some of the things that we've done together with the responsible camping bylaw. And I see that you don't want to review it the next year. I know why, because I chaired it and you were here. It was a great experience, but challenging. And finally, DIG hearings and DIG issues, you had a real passion for solving them, providing it the committees with information and knowledge that have helped us make the right decisions, I believe, in just about every case.
Thank you.
And we've had very few appeals. And the other real passion I have for you is that you are one of my constituents. And every time we have a discussion, you always ask, how are my cattle doing? And I really love that. So why I'll be going out and answering the phone is because I try to buy more cattle to put in the front paddock for you to look at.
Thank you very much.
So thank you for your effort, passion and enthusiasm over the years.
Thank you.
Councillor Walker, then Councillor Dowler.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Adrian, yeah, big thanks. I've appreciated working beside you. I've appreciated most of your responses and answers. But today I just have a couple of questions with regards to your report. I note that you've quoted that freedom campers are already on the increase, and Councillor Mara and I were both at a meeting on Monday night where I counted 30 cars parked in Dex Reserve already. And I don't have to necessarily count them one by one because the people around me were very quick to give me those numbers. And I'm mindful that we currently have a few people who reside in Dex Reserve, not in a vehicle, and some of the interactions that they're having with our international guests. And no doubt we will talk about that in a different forum. But mindful that it's happening. So my question today for you, one of my questions, I've got several, is, if I may, Chair, my question is, we've put the rates up at Kina and also at McKees Reserve. We've also capped the number of nights people are staying. So I guess my question is, whilst we've done that, do you know the impact that that may or may not have on the amount of people coming and going and staying at the likes of Dex Reserve? Because if we've capped how long you can be at McKees, that takes that away as an option, and it makes Dex Reserve more palatable for some of the people travelling and who are actually in vehicles.
Yeah. For you, Madam Chair, I had no input into the rates at McKees Reserve or anywhere else, but so far as Dex Reserve goes, Dex Reserve was a camping area. And then it fell out of the bylaw. The reality is, I suppose, if council wants to get really strict on enforcement of Dex Reserve, where I think probably the campers aren't causing too much of a drama except for an aesthetic issue. If there are people there abusing it and being there for a long time, and then obviously council will take action. I believe we've removed some last week or the week before from there. Where do they go? And that's always the issue. At least if you have people living in one area where they have facilities of some sort, you are reducing the issue. But obviously within the rules, if council wishes to become more strict on places like Dexter Reserve, let us know and we'll take that action. But I would hope this year that a lot of the itinerant people working in the district are being kept on the pit farms where they work, because previously people with those farms didn't want them on there, and they basically said it was health and safety, which it wasn't, because they weren't at work when they were sleeping there, but that's another story. But I think the lack of staff recently has probably made them appreciate that they've got to offer a little bit more than what they pay to people. So I hope that the problem doesn't get too big. However, if it does get too big, or if it gets to a level where it needs action by council, we will take action, and then we'll just have to find out where they go from there. I could probably give you 50 sites where people freedom camp at the moment, but 49 of them you never hear about because there's never a problem. So and again, we've got to be realistic and pragmatic in our enforcement actions. If the people of Mottaraker are really happy off with Dexter Reserve and they feel that it's caused them a big problem, that's fine, and convey that to us, and we'll carry out more punitive measures on those out there. The difficulty always, of course, as I alluded to before, is who's homeless and who's a freedom camper. Yep. And I know that our neighbours in Nelson have got a similar problem, people camping by the cathedral there on the site. So it's never going to be an easy fix, I'm afraid.
If I may, through the chair, thank you. The unseaworthy vessels, obviously, there is concern when you've got children, tamariki, on said vehicles and vessels, and I thank you for the work that you've done to try and assist with the safety around them. My other question is around, if I look at the dog stats, I just want, you don't have to give it to me now, this can be done offline, but I noticed that our menacing dogs have gone up from 67 to 88 and our dangerous dogs 18 to 32. I'd like to get an understanding of how do those numbers creep up so fast, and what deems it to be a menacing dog as opposed to a dangerous dog. But like I said, with time today, you may not be able to give me that.
I can, for you, Madam Chair, I can very quickly give you a very brief overview, but I'm quite happy to give you more information going on. The numbers have crept up because the intensification of dogs in areas has increased. The extra 500-600 dogs, and they tend to be in a more localised area. Also, the fact that people seem to report and stuff more to us. And historically, if a dog caused a problem in the countryside, quite often we didn't hear about it because it got shot. More recently, people don't tend to shoot the dogs somewhere, they tend to get us involved, and so therefore we have to take action on that side. Dangerous dogs are dogs which are dangerous, in our opinion, in that they've been dangerous, they've bitten people, they've bitten animals, or they've shown very aggressive tendencies, whereas menacing dogs shown that they might have a trait to do that in a nutshell, and there's different caveats on what they can and not do depending on the classification they've got. Menacing, they've got to wear a muzzle in public, so it's dangerous, but dangerous is other classifications where people have got to be able to get to the property without getting bitten, that sort of thing. But I'm quite happy to brief you afterwards on that.
Thank you. Councillor Dowd and Councillor Shellcrest.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, it's about the freedom camping at Dexter Reserve. I walked out of the community board meeting at Court Day to go to another meeting and I couldn't find my car. It was surrounded. And I thought, oh, this is cool. So I walked down and sort of squeezed in. Is there any way you can pass a bylaw to stop the smell of what they're cooking? I don't know how they eat it, eh? But anyway.
It's actually an offence under Health Act for you, Madam Chair, is obnoxious odours. But again, we'd have to prove it.
Just a comment about the horticulture people housing these people on site. It would be absolutely great if it could happen. Unfortunately, our bylaw, that's the RMP, stops it because these people would put an abolition block up and a jail block and they charge for it. As soon as they charge for it, they trigger the camping ground regulations. So that's why a lot of it isn't happening. I've got 2 brother-in-laws that would love to do it, but can't because of the hassle.
Very briefly through, Madam Chair, I don't think that's entirely correct. So we consent workers' accommodation all the time on agricultural plots, and you do need to get a resource consent for it. You get a massively reduced development contribution for doing it, but obviously people have got to make their own decisions and see what they present to council to do that. But just this week, we actually signed off 2 DCs on workers' accommodation. So it's not insurmountable at all, but I'm sorry that they found that.
Thank you. Councillor Stalkris and then Councillor McKenzie.
Yeah, thanks, Adrian, for the report. And obviously, good luck with your events down south. Haven't had a lot to do with you, but all the conversations were very pleasant. Just one on the 60 alleged dog attacks. How many actually was there? Did you get that back?
For you, Madam Chair, I can't give you a figure off the top of my head, but I think a serious dog attacks where people or stock were seriously injured, we're talking less than 10. The dogs in those cases have either been euthanised on site, euthanised by the owner, or in one case we're actually taking a prosecution, but that's out of the period of this report. So in all of the cases where there's been significant harm caused, the dogs are no longer with us. And that's largely been by the actions of the people on the site or the owners of the dogs, except for there's one prosecution, but as I say, that's for the next period. The other attacks could be as much as a dog rushing up to a fence when somebody's going by it, but it's reported as a dog attack. The legislation allows us to classify dogs as menacing for doing that. However, depending on the situation, we probably wouldn't classify. We'd probably issue a warning. But if it's a dog that was absolutely aggressive and we have sworn evidence to that, then we can classify accordingly.
Thank you. And the second question was very little Kaiteri and the little blue penguins and dog attacks on them. I've had a few people in Kaiteri, dog owners that are concerned that they might lose their privilege of walking their dogs on the beach from the alleged attacks. Do you know much more about that and where that's at?
Yeah, for you, Madam Chair, I'm in regular contact with Linda Evans at Little Kaiteri, who's the blue penguin person there. And unfortunately, another penguin was killed last week on the actual reserve there. And they believe it might have been a dog attack. The actual ability to walk a dog on a beach or not is covered in the dog control bylaw, which we've already started the preamble on the review of that bylaw, and that will be put into the draft bylaw in some form, which council decides upon, and that will go out to the public for submission. So the people who have concerns that they won't be able to walk the dogs on the beach should submit and explain to the council how they feel that they should be able to do it and what they could do to prevent that being a problem. So that's there, and that's happening. I think February we'll be doing the first draft with the councillors, and it'll be going out, and that bylaw will be in place by this time next year.
Yeah, great, thank you. Yeah, it's just seems to be there's obviously most of the dog owners are pretty good with their dogs down there, but there's people that sounds like come from out of the area, run their dogs, and that's an issue as well. So I'll just feed that information to them.
And for you, Madam Chair, with the penguin deaths down there, quite often they happen in the middle of the night. So and they don't happen during holiday season, to be honest, as much. So I think the reality is that there's probably 1 or 2 dogs that live in that area. They get out at night and go and they do bad things. One of the things which I don't want to go into too much detail on because it'll defeat the purpose. One of the things that we're currently investigating is the ability to have cameras in areas where these attacks are occurring so that we can pick up when dogs are actually going there and chewing on penguins. But obviously we're very careful about where we place cameras. One of the people's privacy into for the fact that we want them to get the result we need rather than capturing stuff we don't need. So
thank you. Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you very much through the chair. Adrian, just a couple of questions, if I may, just with respect to freedom camping. I mean, it's certainly been raised by the Rota Iti community about the big increase that they're seeing. I know in the past we have had additional funding through MB for compliance over the summer season. So do we have sufficient resources to undertake compliance activities over the summer with respect to camping?
For you, Madam Chair, Rota Iti's had more freedom camping action than anybody from staff in the last 3 years, and we've probably issued more tickets there than anywhere else in the district and a lot of places combined. So it's not been ignored at all. Rotoiti's actually got a lot less people freedom camping there. Up until about 10 years ago, everybody used to freedom camp there and it wasn't an issue. When the law changed, it became an issue and people started abusing the privilege of being able to go there. So there's a bit of a history to that site. We don't have any extra funding off government this year. Government did put out the new legislation and they did have an opportunity for us to bid for more resources. We didn't. And that was purely and simply that in the time frame we had, we couldn't get a bid together with enough information. So I dropped the ball personally on that one, I will say. But we have our normal management of it over there. It's never going to be adequate for some people. People think we should patrol every beach every day. We can't do it. It's not realistic. So we try to balance the level of resource against the level of customer expectation. Rotoiti does get a lot of attention though, and we have done an awful lot over there to try and reduce freedom camping. So the answer is no, there won't be enough resource to do it to the level that the people of Rotoiti would like, but we will have people over there patrolling and issuing infringements or moving people on as the case may be.
Thank you. It's a really important governance question. Just with respect to the big inflatable world for Kaiteri over the summer, I actually was at Kaiteri Beach on the day that the staff were marking out the area with the boys. Is it going to go within that boy swimming area, or is it going out in the boating area? I mean, I kind of struggle to see how there's even room for it, to be perfectly honest. I'm very familiar with the pressures there over the summer period.
Yeah, for you, Madam Chair, KRRB have done a lot of work on where they're going to locate it. And in simple terms from the meeting the other night, if you've got your back to the cafe at Kaiteri, the inflatable world will sort of reside about 10 o'clock in the bay, but I think it's going to be about 50 metres out. And they're going to obviously have controls of people on it, because I believe they're charging a fee for people to go on it, or the limited numbers going on it anyway. And one of the concerns we have is, what do you do at night if people want to go out there and play on it when they're drunk and everything else? But we suggested feeding sharks just to keep people off of it, but I don't think they took that idea up. But if you go onto the KRRB website, they'll tell you all about it and show you exactly where it is. I think it's a pretty good thing, and they've done a lot of thinking about it. So I think it'll be a real success for Kaiteri this year.
All right, thank you. Well, maybe I might take a life raft buoy with me when I'm camping there. I could undertake some rescues. And large ship management. So these greater than 500-ton vessels, and we have allocated 3 Tasman anchorages. So are these like private vessels? What? And then I'm just, do they pay for these anchorages?
So for you, Madam Chair, yeah, we do have a scheme of fees and charges. They are commercial vessels over 500 tons. Well, there aren't any private vessels over 500 tons that visit here. So it'll be cruise ships, and it'll be tankers, and it'll be oilers and coal ships and iron and sand ships and that sort of thing. We've been working on this for a number of years. The issue is we need to work with Nelson City Council for it to be fully effective. They're working at a different pace than we are. We've done surveys on 3 anchoring areas, large anchoring areas, which we've made sure that there's no environmental impact going to be caused by large ships dropping anchors. But and Nelson are catching up on that now. To put it in the context, at the moment, a large ship can come in and drop anchor pretty much anywhere within Tasman Bay. And we have harbour master powers to direct them, but for safety alone, it'll be a lot easier if we were to direct them into specific areas where we knew where they were, and we knew if they had a problem, we could deal with it. So that's been the history of where we've got to today. We're pretty much in a position to go. As I say, there's a few things we need to sort out with Nelson City Council, Harbour Master and Port Nelson, not major things. And then we have to do a thing called a Section 88 consultation, which is the people who are directly affected, like the ship owners, Port Nelson. We write to them, tell them what we're going to do, and then they come back with submissions to us if they don't like it. It's a common practice. We've actually copied the model from Marlborough District Council, and they do bill for this, and it is a source of income which will support harbour master function. And the fees and charges are actually in our fees and charges schedule already. So it's there about maritime safety. It does provide a source of income, and it will enhance maritime safety once it's up and running.
Hard to believe, but I've got a couple of things. In terms of the alcohol licences, so I'm aware of one in Golden Bay, an application that was made in November last year, still not resolved. So just wondering internally, what do we have happening in our processes? Where do we have something internally where we have to be processing these licences within a certain time frame?
Yes and no. It depends what the license is. The one you're referring to was somebody who made an application, and we got an objection from the police and from the health board for that person. So that then basically puts it out of a direct time frame. Obviously, we try to process these things as quickly as we can. But as soon as you involve other agencies and they're entitled to be involved under the Act, we can't ignore their advice. We then have to go through a process whereby they submit information, the applicants submit information, and we may or may not go to a DLC hearing due to that. And the one you referred to, obviously, they decided to change their application, which resolved the issue. We do have processes for everything. There's not like with resource consents or building consents a 20-day limit. But we do tend to get these things pushed through as quickly as we possibly can.
Thank you. And I've got the Councillor Maru's passed on to me just a timeline of what's happened with that application. So a year is, I mean, they're sort of busting to get their licence, sure they get it before the season starts, but a year does seem to be a long time for people to be in a process of, well, in a process.
Yeah.
Thank you. And just in terms of wandering stock, I just think there's quite a few incidences. And do we, if we're mopping up for waka kotahi, one thing is to try and get a bit of cash from them. The other is I'm assuming that however the stock are getting out, that there must be contact with the landowners. And are there any issues with particular landowners that aren't sort of getting any fences up to a decent standard, or changing the hatch on the gate, or?
We do, for you again, Madam Chair, we do occasionally get an errant landowner which has continuing fencing problems. We've got one in the Mahana area at the moment. In those cases, we actually go and speak to them, and we tell them that they need to start doing stuff and they need to sort their fencing out. Under the Impounding Act, we can direct them to improve their fencing, or we can impound their stock. But it's a really, the Impounding Act's 1955, and it's not fit for purpose. It's really not helpful to us as a council. The main concern we have is obviously getting the stock off the road so they're not going to kill anybody or kill themselves. But where we have an ongoing issue, we do engage directly with them and try to get them to improve.
And I think it's one of the things I appreciate about the team is that education first, and it's that's clear to me. And I think, and it's more than a nuisance factor. You know, there's a young chap died at home, cow out, burnt section, early morning, off to milk.
Yeah.
You know, and he's dead. You know, terrible. A few years ago now, but still felt and remembered. Yeah. So it is a really serious matter.
Absolutely.
Look, thank you, Adrian. I think that's all, and which leads us to. You have to remove, that's great. Oh, I just want to make one other comment actually about the illegal dumping. So interesting that there's an idea that as the fees and charges have gone up for dumping, that, you know, we're going to a whole lot more fly dumping, and it's good that something's being sort of held there, that there isn't an obvious deluge of people fly dumping. So that approach is effective. A seconder for the resolution to receive the report. Councillor Dowler. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you. And let's go to your prosecutions report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, I'll take the report as read. There's a requirement under our delegations to inform the council of current prosecutions going through. We have got a prosecution at the moment of a private landowner who cleared 5 hectares of indigenous forest on their property, completely outside of the allowance within the RMA without a resource consent. And the first call on this on the 6th of December, which they will be given the opportunity to enter a plea, and the court will lay out the process from there. So this is a really serious offending, it's stuff that we don't treat lightly. Unfortunately, we do get distracted with other stuff which we have to deal with, but this is the sort of level of offending that really does need attention, and that's why we've taken legal advice and proceeding in this way.
Thank you. Anything from anybody? Happy to move. Councillor Dowler, seconder. Councillor Ellis. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. And let's go to Waimea Critical Water Management, 23-24.
Might actually go because Dave Shaw he must have seen that agenda.
Okay. All right.
The council wasn't on that.
I can't quite read up there, but all right. Given that Dave's not here, we will break for our morning tea, and councillors and some staff are going to have a little farewell for you in the councillors' lounge with maybe some club sandwiches. Not sure. But, let's adjourn there till for 20 minutes. Let's be back. Let's be back at 5:02. Thank you. Let's bring the meeting back to order. Some sense of order.
Need to move, Mr. Kelly.
Good, everybody. If you could just bring your conversations to a close. It's surprising how much from up here we can hear when people are just chatting very quietly. It's interesting and distracting. Very nice morning tea with Adrian. It was lovely. It's just such genuine comments to him today. It's been gratifying to witness, actually. We have our Waimea Critical Water Management 22-24 summer report now. Dave Shaw and some team. No, on your own.
The team's there.
The team's there.
Yeah, bring them up.
Welcome, Dave. Over to you.
Good morning. You can take the report as read. It is. Yeah, you can take the report as read, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Brian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So thanks for the report. And congratulations. I think Vicky's going to be the lead on instigating this work. Just wondered for the benefit, I think there's some people in the public gallery that may well be interested in how this is going to work in practice. I know you've covered it off before, but just briefly for their benefit, particularly around the unaffiliated and how these consents will be monitored going forward for this season.
Okay, in brief, I will hand this over to Neil and Vicky, who are the people who will be tasked with that monitoring and so forth. But essentially what the report is saying is that the regulator will deem the dam to be fully operational when all the permanent pipe work and associated mechanical and instrumentation is all complete and certified. And that likely will be perhaps March next year. And so until that point, the transitional rules which are in place at the moment and the means that we monitor and regulate drought will continue as it is currently. That's our position that we've communicated to Waimea Water, and I guess that's probably one of the purposes of this report, to bring that to your attention. In terms of what that means for the affiliated and unaffiliated going forward, then I'll hand that over to perhaps Neil or Vicky.
Thanks, Dave. So I do need to point out that currently, until such time as the dam is deemed operational, we carry on normal jogging. And basically, the system that we've operated for monitoring water take resource consents stays the same. So we've already started this season, as most of you will be aware. And any restrictions that may or may not be applied will be a decision process for the dry weather task force, as we have done in many previous years. If and when the dam is deemed operational, that will mean changes for those consent holders that are in the Waimeas. Those changes will affect those that are affiliated and unaffiliated to the dam. The main changes, apart from perhaps some bona fide maximum volume takes, will be the changes around rationing implementation. Currently, as we have always done, any decisions around rationing have been made by the Dry Weather Task Force on a Tuesday evening, with the implementation of those rations coming into play the following Monday. So we've always given people a week's lead in to make any adjustments that they need to, and also for us to be able to communicate those changes to rationing. Once the dam is operational, we will have instantaneous triggers that will be communicated to both affiliated and unaffiliated. What that means, at any period, 24/7 in a week, at any time that the river hits the trigger level, whether that be for a stage 1 or right through to a cease take, depending on how low that is, there will be a text message sent out to advise of what level trigger has been hit. This will be shortly followed up by an email that will contain detail of the new trigger or the new rationing level that applies to your resource consent. This is obviously something that we did on a week-by-week basis. We would contact all the water users and tell them, right, this is what's your maximum total. Now that stage 1 is in play, this is at 80% what you are allowed to take each week. This will be done pretty much instantaneously. So you'll wake, if it's at whatever time in the morning, you'll wake up, there'll be a text message if you haven't left your phone on, and there'll probably be an email in your inbox advising you triggers have been hit. It's now in play. This is what you have to abide by.
Can I just check in terms of that week's notice that's currently there through our current system? Is there a notice period once that trigger's hit? Is there some period where people have to be able to adjust?
So whereas before, I can explain that for the triggers are instant. They basically, that's what the river is. It's now in play. It happens instantaneously. That has different meanings for affiliated and unaffiliated consent holders, especially as it progresses through the stages. It is quite detailed. We have communicated to consent holders what that will mean for them. But essentially, there will be an expectation that once these messages have been delivered, that is the trigger that you abide by, and your rationing starts from that point. There's no weeks lead-in as there was previously. So our database, if you like, will start calculating from that moment in time how much water you have left to use in that period.
Excuse me, sorry, Max. There's no questions from the public gallery, and you'll understand that. So if you could respect the structure and format we have here, and I'm sure any questions that you might have, you'll get a response or email, I'm sure, or conversations with staff. Thank you. You don't carry on. We do have a couple of questions, but you might have finished your.
I think the biggest change will be for the unaffiliated water users. I think we need to be quite clear that the big change will be in a time of a cease take. So previously, there was a week's notice. Once it's instant, we have communicated to unaffiliated users that we will require a photograph of the water meter at the point that, or by a certain time, showing the meter reading. And then, like everybody else, each week for the duration that you're in a cease take, we'll just require a report or a meter reading each week until eventually you come out of the cease take. And there is a time period for that too, based upon river levels and average means. So there are some quite big changes once we go operational.
Yeah, and in terms of that, I get it about the trigger. You have the trigger, that's it, boom. And will there be notification leading up to, getting close to the point at which actually heading that way? Here's a
yes
point just before. Yes,
yeah. There will. So
yeah,
the first thing that will happen, there will be what we call a consultation trigger. And that is when the dam storage is down to 2.7 cubic meters. There will be a notification that goes out to everyone saying, this is where we're at. We're letting you know now that plan for what may be coming. And then from then on in, there are certain points, and it does differ for the affiliated and unaffiliated, at which point their rationing triggers kick in. But these are documented. The information is in people's resource consents. We have communicated that, people should always familiarise themselves with their consents. But we have also in our pre-season communications to all water users pointed out that whilst we say we start the season, as we always have done, be prepared that when the dam goes operational, things will change.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Bryant and Councillor Mailing, and then Councillor Kinnamuth.
So just a further question, Neil, for clarity. So all consent holders and unaffiliated, until we get to the cease take stage, will just have to meet the conditions of their consent going forward as they previously had. It's when we change to the cease take, it really kicks in. But the likes of council, which supplies urban water, they will just have their consent conditions as per normal. And we have, because we supply reticulated water, there is also some requirement that we don't have to, we can supply water beyond the cease take.
So what you'll find with council's consents, they will be affiliated to the dam. So their rationing, any rationing triggers will be different to consents that are unaffiliated, very much so. So rationing triggers obviously are applied according to whether you're affiliated or unaffiliated.
Or a council supply. Yeah.
So just to clarify, Neil, what you're saying there is this scenario is in play once the dam is commissioned. What we're facing with us now, with a lot of people of a drought over the upcoming summer, is that it won't be with a commissioned dam in play. So therefore, the consent conditions will apply across the board, and there's no differentiation between affiliated and non-affiliated for the time being.
That's correct.
There's some hard decisions that will be need to be made inside that window. Should the drought conditions come upon us.
That's correct. So that's operating as we always have done. So it's exactly the same up until the point that the dam is deemed operational.
Thank you. Councillor Mayland.
Just quickly, more of a comment, but I'm happy to receive the report. And I've been a member of the Dry Weather Task Force, I think, for some 24 years. So I've sat around that table for a long time and sat there with Neil for many years. This will be a big improvement because the catch has always been you're trying to look at the weather 7 days out and then something happens. So you put in place restrictions and then it changes. Yeah. We get some unexpected rain or something else. So that switching on and off in that way was always problematic. But having telemetry and electronic monitoring will be just so much better. And I know unaffiliated have got that as well. So I just see that as a big bonus going forward and it being instant to what we've had in the past. So I see this as good and I look forward to when the dam is operational.
I bet you do. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lamont and then Councillor Mackenzie and Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. I'm happy to second the report. The flow chart I'm looking at here now, that's brilliant. That makes it all clear. That one, yep. The unaffiliated restrictions, stage 3, cease take, bottom right-hand corner. That's obviously the bone of contention. That's the red one that we're worried about. So we cease take when there's 2,050 litres per second or less at Irvine's. So we must have data already. So how many times a year or how many years when these flows have got below 2,005 litres per second at Irvine? So I'm just trying to get a feel, how many times a decade or a year are we going to have these cease takes, which is going to affect the community and their well-being, health, and well as money in the bank. So yeah, please, can you give me a response?
Through the chair, the best person to answer that type of question will, from a scientific perspective and knowledge, would be Joseph Thomas, who unfortunately isn't with us today. But I can take that on board and I can ask Joseph. I can't answer that question for you. I apologise because that is a scientific.
To get back to me, please.
I certainly can.
Thank you. Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you very much through the chair. So I get March thereabouts commissioning of the dam and a new regime is in play. But from now until March, will there be any benefit from the Waimea Community Dam in terms of flows in the river? And then I might have a supplementary question.
I guess the best way I can answer that is that to explain what's currently in place. At the dam, the spillway and the embankment are pretty much complete. And there's some other physical works that have got to take place around the base of the spillway. In order for that to be carried out, there's a temporary pipe in place. That temporary pipe can deliver minimum flows. So in terms of benefit to the river will always have a minimum flow that's required for environmental purposes. I also understand that the size of that pipe may be able to release extra water up to a given capacity. Unfortunately, again, it would have been great to have Joseph here just to explain what those quantities of water mean for the benefit of others. Whether that's released or how, I guess that will be at Waimea Water Limited's discretion.
Through the chair, if I could perhaps just add to what Dave's saying, there will be discretion for the dam to be able to supplement natural flows. The issue is that they won't be able to differentiate the beneficiaries of that until such time as the dam is commissioned. So it can function as a dam, but it's an operational decision as to whether to do so, and it won't be able to call on the difference between being affiliated and unaffiliated. So all will benefit if the dam does supplement flows.
Okay, so that's kind of where I'd got to in my head. So the potential is, so it's possible over this summer period that actually affiliated and unaffiliated consent holders may benefit from the Waimea Community Dam.
That's correct.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you. There's so many parts of my questions that I've been able to tick off thanks to the questions from my colleagues. But I'm just, sorry, I'm just going to have to flick through my copious notes. I'm curious about the possible, are there any implicated risks to council, given that essentially the tap will be switched off for unaffiliated users, but they receive a briefing at the start of the season that it could potentially happen, that they could have a cease take. What are the implications of if we fail to give them enough notice, or at the start of the season give a good clear idea so that they're making decisions on their land based on the information we give them, but then all of a sudden we have a cease take? What are the implications?
Through Madam Chair, communications have gone out pre-season to explain that there is the potential for the new regime to kick in, and we will notify. It's been communicated that we will notify consent holders when this is happening, and we will reiterate what that will mean for them. Now, bearing in mind, we have already something like this with an explanation that says, obviously, when your restrictions kick in and what they mean, and also the information contained within the resource consents. It pays to be familiar with them. So this already has been communicated. We've advised that we will give further communication as and when we are more sure of when these changes are going to be implemented. So we've already let people know, yeah, this is what's coming, but we will reiterate and tell you when this will start and what this will mean for you.
Through the chair, perhaps I'll just add to what Neil's saying in this instance. I get that the framework we're working in is recognises that water is a scarce resource. So a set of privileges have been allocated by way of consent. So people who hold those consents fully understand the terms under which they can secure water for their needs. This is not related to drinking water or stock water. This is the water that's used above that. And so folk have a choice as to whether they align with the dam or stay and try and operate under those standard conditions. So there's always the choice that unaffiliated folk have to make to become affiliated, and very much that's there's that opportunity that exists. If they want to manage the risk that way, that's the door that's open.
Sorry, so there's no risk that it can come back to us because we've supplied insufficient information at the start?
That's right. The regulatory framework is in play, and we're supplementing that through our communications by actually giving people a heads up that this is now, this is a very unusual year. This is the year the dam is now very close to being operational. And so this is when the part of the conditions that they've got in their consent are likely to take effect. Now, whether the dam is operational in March is still very much determining on the amount of rain we receive. And there are other views that it might not be until May. So we don't even know when the dam might be full, have all of the pertinent structures fully commissioned and authorised. So we can't actually put a line in the sand as to when the new arrangements will take place, but we're telling everyone about the possibility of that.
Thank you. And Councillor Kinnamonth.
Thank you. Me again. This flow chart is absolutely brilliant. I like it, and I presume that will go on to the council's website together with all this information that's been made available around here, so that the public and the water users are fully aware. The only thing I would say about the flow chart, it lacks timing. I know you've got points where the triggers come in, but between now and March, the existing system remains, so that you've got your weekly meetings, and that's when you apply your restrictions. And then after, when it's fully commissioned, you're going to go to this new system. It'd be nice to be able to tell the public how it's going and moving, keeping them going with us, not against us.
Yeah, we'd all love to know. Yeah. So we're in some unknowns around that. Yeah. Thank you. The resolution for the report's been moved by Councillor Mailing and seconded by Councillor Kinnamonth. So I'm going to put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you very much. And we'll move to our annual air quality report, Diana.
Mori koutou. We're happy to take the report as read and we'll take questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councillor Maru and then Deputy Mayor Bryant.
So, thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. So, Diana, just in terms of 5.2 and with one of the scribbles 7.2, so the costs in terms of monitoring, I take it it's nitrogen oxide if it's required. Is that budget line currently in the draft LTP lines, or is this currently not in the draft LTP lines?
It is in the draft LTP lines, thanks.
And I think I had one other one. Let me go zoom down. No, I don't. Thank you.
Oh, good. Deputy Mayor Bryant.
Yeah, Madam Chair, through you. Diana, thanks for the report. It must have been about this time last year we got one similar. And I did notice we talked about last year about doing more monitoring in Wakefield, and you're yet to get the full details of that. Firstly, when would that be? And secondly, just anecdotally, I would have thought it would have been less of an issue in Wakefield this year. It appeared that there were less low immersion layer of days, and so it seemed to be better air quality by and large. I just wondered if you'd pick that up for any sort of monitoring. And two of the people I talked about last year seem to have reformed or not had fires, which made quite a difference to where we are.
So through the chair, we have been running, I suppose, a surveillance research work program of our smaller towns. And so last winter, so that was 2022, we did Brightwater in Wakefield. And the focus of that surveillance monitoring is PM 2.5. So the air quality NES standard is PM 10. But at some point in the future, we know that Ministry and the government are signalling that we will be needing to monitor and manage PM 2.5. So from that monitoring of last year, it did signal depending on where that 2.5 standard landed, we may have an issue. But until the government confirms those regulations, we're just doing, I suppose, targeting a township for a winter, doing the monitoring, getting a feel for what it is, and then doing another township. So this year we focused on Murchison, and we're still waiting to see the results of that.
I did wonder if the other thing about the chat that you brought along when you presented at the Wakefield Community Council talking about the fires, we actually tried that personally for the whole winter, and it does make a huge difference to the way your fire operates, and we had a whole lot less ash. So if you could persuade everyone to do that, that would make a huge difference, I would have thought. And just finally, around the good wood supplier, is I think you're talking there about 5 suppliers, and we give some money to those that purchase wood. Is there any opportunity to expand the good wood suppliers? Because obviously there's more than 5 good wood merchants across the district. Do we have any form of encouragement that we can give those? Because the wood is a huge thing around fires.
So through the chair, we have Jessie Cross, who's working in the community partnerships team, and she has time available to do that non-reg work program. And we are looking in terms of options there to invite more wood merchants in to be part of the scheme.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you very much through the chair, and thank you for the report. I mean, when I sort of sit back, I mean, I know that there's more work to do, but I think the council can be really pleased of the difference that's happened, particularly in Richmond, over that period of time. I mean, we've really come a long way from where we were before. So, you know, ultimately what's driven that, I don't know, but we're on the right trajectory. I note that there's more work to do. But actually, yeah, I did just want to mention, you know, like the community engagement, and particularly thank you for coming out, for example, to Brightwater and to Wakefield. I do recall the night in Wakefield. I think it was a bit of a tough crowd that night, but you know, it's impactful in those communities when you actually come out and talk about your work and raise the awareness. So just want to acknowledge that. And yeah, I've been using the method for my fire over the winter as well, so clearly it does work.
So through the chair, it's Dave Pullen from the Home Heating Association, that he lives locally now, but he historically did a lot of work with Environment Canterbury in terms of that education and advice, and so he's got a lot of knowledge. And the aim is for next autumn, if we can get Dave out there in more kind of community events, or say going to the Motueka market on a Sunday, to get him out there and to provide some more education in this space.
Are you happy to move the report? Great. And there might be other ways to, be great to get around all of the settlements, wouldn't it? But just those that turn up learn about it. But I wonder if there's a way that we can convey more the benefits of what it is that he conveys around fire efficiency.
Yeah, through the chair, we're looking to update our website pages, and we do a lot of comms through Facebook and also Newsline in relation to equality. But the value of Dave is, I suppose, that person-to-person interaction. He's a great guy, a great resource for us.
Great, thank you. Councillor Kinamon.
Thank you. You've got a very comprehensive report here. Thank you. I've just got a little simple question. Page 21. Clause 3.6, the monitoring of the Motueka for the, I might mispronounce this, Partisol gravimetric sampler, means a lot to me. This report, is it going to be coming in the next month or two, or and also given there's Motueka, you probably would say that you got a fair level of problems, exceedances there. Would that be my best guess?
So in terms, through the chair, in terms of the Motueka sampling, the information is presented in relation to the council's monitor that was running 1 in 3 days. In addition to that, we also had a contractor who had it's called a dust mote sensor. And so that was monitoring every day. Once we have that information, we'll be able to present it back to councillors early next year and I suppose compare the results in relation to council's monitor versus the dust mote. What we know from the monitoring that we've been doing in Motueka is that it appears that it is not breaching the NES standard for PM10, which is the legal requirement. But again, we have an issue in terms of potential for monitoring and management of PM 2.5, and it comes back to what will that standard be? So until we know, it's a wait and see game.
Are you happy to second the report? Yep. Oh, yeah. Cool. Is there anything further? We've got a mover, which was Councillor McKenzie. Councillor Kim wants a second. I'll put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much for your work. It's very good to be able to have this précis of what's happening. Fantastic. Thank you. We move to our annual biosecurity report. Welcome. No team with you? Are they?
Do you mind if I pass around a prop?
All good.
Yeah.
More props the better in here, I'd say.
It's a test. There's inside there is a Tradescantia plant with Tradescantia beetles on it, which is a biocontrol that we released. And the team have just been out this morning collecting some to spread around.
Do you need any more offers of sites to give it a crack at?
We've got plenty of sites. Yeah. It's always nice to actually see what we're talking about when we talk about these biocontrols that we send around the place. So yeah, I'll take the report as read, but I'll point out a few key highlights of the report. So this report and the operational plan, we have a joint plan with Nelson. So this is covering Nelson City's work as well as Tasman's, and this report was presented to Nelson City a couple of weeks ago. There has been, I think, so last year when we presented this report, we were asked if we could do a bit more of a push on education. So that's what we've really focused on this year. So we've had an increase in our outreach through Facebook and media releases and making sure we attend all our AMP shows and that sort of thing, and also going to the likes of gardening groups. And so you'll see that there's quite a lot of, I guess, increase in known sites, which sometimes looks a bit bad in a report, but that's a direct result of reaching out to people and making sure we're letting people know what we're out there looking for. So it's really a nice focus on what happens when we let people know what's in our RPMP and getting education out there. We're really grateful when the community come back with reports of what they've found and helping us do our job, which is great. So that's also a reflection of an increase in surveillance effort, just having an extra team member on for a couple of years to help support the team with that. We have had a really good response with our Sabella and marine biosecurity, so we've had no incursions again this year, so that's year 3 or 4 now in a row. It's been a really successful program. Our Taiwan cherry program has been marching along. We've controlled over 70 trees this season, and that's again been a really positive program. the vast majority of landowners, as soon as they know what we've got and understand the problem, they're happy to have it removed and we replace the tree for them. And as these programs become more successful, as we control and get them tighter and tighter, we do start hitting a bit of the pointy end with that, with having to get to a bit of enforcement. And so we are seeing a small increase in that as our programs become more successful, and we're really appreciative of the support we get from our councillors when that's in their community, and helping us do our work in that space as well. Yeah, we're passing around the biocontrols. That's also a program. The True Scantia is a great example of success. We've just released more old man's beard mites as well, which is a hot topic often with our community. So be good to we're trying our best to control old man's beard. And the regional pest management plan is under review. So we have a joint committee. And we are currently reviewing the inclusion of moth plant, blue pattern flower, water celery, Vietnamese parsley, campus, and potential changes to boneseed, wilding conifers, feral cats, and Sabella rules through that joint committee. And we're aiming to have that out for public consultation in the new year. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Thanks for the report, Winnie. And yeah, it's just onwards and upwards, really, isn't it? I just got a question about a couple of questions, actually. Firstly, that you raised the issue of the nursery inspection warrants. And do you think they're still necessary? I mean, I have seen some quite dodgy things for sale in nurseries myself. We probably all have. But do you think there'll be a resolution to that? How do you think you're going to cope with that going forward?
So we have had a bit of movement on that with BI in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So they have a new staff member. A lot of this relies on, there's a single person that does the job and then PI, and if they're not there, they choose to leave, then we get a gap. So they now have a person in that job, and they are now giving out those warrants. Okay. And I do think the inspections are really important. We can do them anyway as surveillance, but if it's in our RPMP, we can enforce it. If it's not, we can't enforce it, and it's purely education. And we have had the odd instance of something being seen and being sold and having to, we don't have to do enforcement, usually just explaining the problem is enough.
Right, okay. And so my other question was about the operational plan and how that links in with the activity management plan for the long-term plan. Is it basically, sorry, maybe that's about putting you on the spot a wee bit, and if that's, too difficult, then I'm just, wondering, given that we're putting things together for the long-term plan, is your operational plan that you've got in here, I know it's a joint one with Nelson City Council, so is it basically our part of what's in the operational plan?
I'm hoping Rob's listening in because he might be able to jump in with the activity management plan part of it, but this operational plan is developed under the Biosecurity Act, so it's a requirement under the Biosecurity Act that we produce an operational plan and we review it annually and present it to council before the 1st of December. That's quite a clear guide in the Biosecurity Act, and the delivery of that is joint with Nelson, and then so in my mind it sits separately, but I'm hoping Rob's going to jump in.
I think Kim might have a little comment here.
Anyway, I'm happy to move.
Oh, great. Yes, Chair, thanks, great. And Kim's got a little comment around that EMP, LGP.
I guess that'd be interesting of aligning our operational work with what we're, which, as Winnie says, is quite directed through the Biosecurity Act. With our activity management plan, when we look at the activity management plans, we find a whole lot goes into that environmental bucket, and it's actually very hard to see in there any of the actual work streams that we're doing in relation to the work. And it suggests to me, as someone new coming into the council, that perhaps we ought to be expanding our focus on the environmental space and our activity management plan approach, because we're just not really seeing the flow of this particular likes of work through into that narrow sort of framework that we're operating under there, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for that answer. Yeah.
Thank you, Kim. Councillor Mackenzie, then Deputy Mayor Bryant, Councillor Walker and Councillor Kinnaman.
Thank you very much for your report. Just two questions. Firstly, I did get quite excited when I read your report about the idea of some kind of mite or something chomping away on all that old man's beard. So, you know, should we be optimistic about that as a biological control?
We're cautiously optimistic. We're always cautious with biocontrols because they're a living creature, and there's often all sorts of other things that might affect their success that we don't know about. But in Canterbury, the mite is spreading naturally huge distances and is really successful. And we have one site. I haven't got Lindsay here yet. No. We're one site in Nelson actually, so we've joined with Nelson in our releases. So we do have one site where they had a look a couple of weeks ago, and it was just dying old man's beard. So those sorts of sites are giving us a bit of hope. We released it last year, but last summer was particularly a bit wet and not a great summer for these sorts of critters. And yeah, we'll just keep releasing until we get a bit of success. Landcare are amazing in supporting, trying to find the right site and get them going. So,
wow,
so optimistic.
No, it just, I mean, honestly, it just sounds amazing. I mean, you know, that has the potential to change the visual landscape of places, because we know now when you drive around and it's just, you know, quite depressing in many instances, actually, the amount of old man's beard. My second question related to reviewing the RPMP and possibly including Pampas. So can you tell me, I mean, what would you be hoping to achieve, and how, I mean, because what we actually know, I think, is that they're very hard to kill and to remove and get out. And there's a lot of them around our district as well. So what do you think the outcome of this will be?
At the moment, we're proposing just a site in Golden Bay. So it'll be a Golden Bay specific program, because that's probably the only place where it's at low enough numbers where we would have a hope of getting it under control manually. Yeah, Pampas in the review is probably the one where we need to get the opinion of the local community about whether they're supportive and whether we think we can do it. Yeah, it's a thing we'd love to get rid of, but if we can do it, and if it meets that cost benefit analysis of is it worth putting the effort in to get the result you're going to get, yeah, it's probably a little bit on the fence.
Oh well, look forward to seeing how you go with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Bryant and then Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for you to Jenny. Jenny, thank you for the report, and it always amazes me the small amount of money that get and how far you make it go, and all the work your team does for that across the district, and how well received you are by most of the people you're working with and for. So I just have a couple of free questions, if I may. Under the exclusion piece you've that you're trying to prevent coming in, you've listed wallabies and water hyacinth. The wallabies, I'm not sure that's a factual, obviously what you've said in the report is, but I've also heard anecdotally there may be some in the upper Wairau Valley in Marlborough. Are you aware of that, which could be a threat to us, particularly out there? Nelson Lakes area.
I hope there's not anything.
Yeah, so
So Marlborough also have them as an exclusion. So they react the same way we do, which is get it under control. Yeah, they are a direct, so they are an exclusion. So we would track it down one way or another, usually by MPI. So MPI are the lead here, and
thank you.
Destroy it. Yes. If there is a report, we'd love to know about it.
Water hyacinth. I did see where one of the garden clubs was passing around something that was a pest. Was that water hyacinth, or was that something else?
Potentially, yes, if it was in the office.
It was in the media.
Yeah. So we did pick it up through a garden club, and we're very, very grateful that they, once they knew what they had, let us know. So that was a great example of, we're really appreciative of that group.
Liaison, yeah. I'm not sure if Lindsay wants to add anything further to that.
It's professional.
Just asking about the water hyacinth, and you picked it up at a garden club.
Yeah, that was a lucky break for us to get that picked up. So and we swooped on that pretty quick. MPI take the lead on control for water hyacinth, and so it was taken out of our hands quite quickly. But it was excellent, an excellent find. We did well to get it. Yeah.
And just further in relation to cats, which has become a little bit of my hobby horse in the last year, and just around the work you've done, and will you need to have any further budgetary requirements if the cat bylaw comes into place? I'm thinking that already you're doing the Waimea Inlet and potentially some at the lake with other parties. What's your thoughts around that?
So the cats is in relation to the pest management plan, the proposal is to just do it in site-led areas around, so we already have in Waimea Inlet, so Abel Tasman and the Nelson Lakes National Parks. And those are areas where there's already activity. So the rules will be there to support the groups that are already doing the work. So we wouldn't be proposing us doing that work. And so that wouldn't mean more money or more resourcing required. The bylaw process, which is separate to the biosecurity work, even though I'm the one in front of both. The bylaw work, we are trying to keep that within our current resourcing, and that will depend how the consultation goes. So if we're proposing just microchipping and registration, which we think we can do within our current resourcing. If it's beyond that, if the community want more than that, then we would need to look at budget.
Thank you. Thanks.
Councillor Walker, then Councillor Kinnemont, and we're still looking for a seconder. The report's been moved by Chair of Biosecurity, Councillor Butler. Have a second?
I think there's too many. There you go. With regards to your progressive contaminant pest programs, you've got a bullet point 4.10. Can you explain to me what you're using for your aerial spray in the Kingsland Forest Reserve? And also, how do we communicate that to the community prior to the aerial spray happening? Thanks.
Come up to the table if you need to.
So the Kingsland Forest spraying is done through the project. It's not our biosecurity team, so which is through the parks team. Do you know the spray he's using? Sulphur and
glyphosate.
And when they do those sprays, because it's in a public area, it's very highly. There's quite a lot of notification, track closures, that sort of thing around there's a lot. It's consented, it has a resource consent in order to do aerial spraying in that way. So then the consent sets the rules about how you work with the community and make sure that that's well communicated before the sprays happen.
That plan will be available to you, I imagine, if you should see fit to peruse it. Thank you. I don't know.
Sorry,
so
so part of the report is to show how our work interacts with the other parts of the council. So a lot of our biosecurity delivery actually comes through the parks team because they do a lot of that work because they're working in the reserves. So that's just showing that link. I can definitely get the information for you though.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Kinnemont.
Thank you. Through the chair, I always enjoy your report. You mentioned when you first sat down how you've shifted your focus around onto a bit more on promotions, going along to the garden clubs, and I've had already even hear from the wife about Taiwan cherry. So that's obviously going to take your focus away from other work you've been doing. So is there a trade-off there? You're still doing that as well, or how's your staff levels going? Do you need more staff? And I hope Mr. Greening is not listening. You know, how is the workload going?
We try and not drop off work, so we try and use the education as a way of doing the surveillance. That's the key, is that a huge part of a biosecurity officer's role is surveillance and finding the pest, and then a lot of the control is actually on the landowner occupier of that land to do that work. So it's a little bit of a trade-off in terms of, are we actually physically out there spraying something? But the best long-term result for biosecurity is the more people that know, the more people that are out there doing the surveillance and letting us know what's out there and doing the work themselves, the better for us. We could always have more staff. That's always going to be a thing, but we work with we're realistic about resourcing, and we can deliver on this with who we've got, which is great.
Thank you. The report's been moved by Councillor Butler, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bryant. I'll put the resolution. We're receiving the report. We're receiving the review and the operational plan, and we're approving the plan review and the operational plan. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thanks for your great work and the clever ways that you're getting bang for buck, and I think you go into the draw for bang for buck within the council teams.
Thank you.
Welcome, Jackie and Briley. NPS, Urban Development, Annual Monitoring Report. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. We're proposing to take the report as read, just to highlight that this is the annual monitoring report that we do on the housing and business markets. We're currently working on a more detailed three-yearly assessment, which will set out how we're doing in terms of meeting demand and providing capacity. And that will be coming to you as part of the LTP supplementary information. But yeah, it's just the annual report here. So happy to take any questions.
Councillor Kinnemont.
Thank you. I suppose this is about the only time I can be negative today, is this report mixes Nelson City Council and Tasman City Council together. And I find that a bit confusing when I was going through the report. It'd be nice to have lesser of NCC and more TDC so that we can promote a bit more of what we're doing. And it all looks very, very healthy for us as a community. The growth that's going on there, the figures are looking positive. So that's my only negative comment, to be more, yeah.
Jackie, you'd be happy just to let the councillor know around the joint approach, how come, and
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we don't have a choice. We have to provide the information as joint information because we're part of the same urban environment under the national policy statement. So, and it is confusing. I agree that some data is for the district only, and then some of it is for this joint urban environment. And it's just essentially the data that we have to work with already. So, yeah, apologies if it's confusing, but that's what we have to do.
It's required. Yeah. Anybody else? Councillor Walker and then Councillor Mayling.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for your report. On a positive, it's easy to read. On a negative, it's really hard to sit and read just how serious it is about our housing and the cost of it and the availability of it for our wider community. And this is no reflection on our staff at all, but it's the reality of where we sit today in the environment that we're in. And I attended the Salvation Army's update for the region Hui on Monday, and our stats are just the same as their stats, and it is concerning, isn't it, about being the second and third dearest place within New Zealand to actually try and live, and that our incomes don't reflect anywhere around the cost of having a roof, you know, a basic human right for our community. And I'm not too sure how we go changing that other than continuously chipping away at central government once we're formed about what our needs are to address some of this. I had some notes, but for some reason I can't get my thing to move. Anyway, I know that we've had conversations around the future development strategy, where that sits, and I want to thank you for the mahi that you do, because it's big, it's huge, and that another councillor's commented about we don't want other people's stats, but those stats are a reality as well. And I guess where I come from with my question is, and I know where Councillor Maley and I talked about it, is that we did sign off on doing a housing advisory group. And I think this information endorses the fact that as councillors, we need to be looking at this. We need to be looking at our pensioner housing. We need to be looking at what we have in the way of stock, how we're working with that, and how collaboratively we can work with CHIPS, so community housing providers, moving forward. So thank you for your report. Sorry, there's not really a question in there, other than to say, keen to continue some dialogue around where this all heads.
Thank you.
And maybe just comments on a couple of things and Bradley can add as well. Yeah, I mean, totally agree with what you said. It is a really challenging area, and I think it's even more frustrating when up until probably very recently we've done quite well in terms of providing enough capacity to meet that demand for housing, yet we still don't see the affordability coming through. So we are speaking with the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, as you may be aware, about potential for what's called a place-based partnership, but we're trying to understand how that might actually result in more affordable housing. That's something we are doing. And we do also have a number of meetings that we attend, which Bradley can maybe talk to you more with the Salvation Army and things as well. So we're trying to actively help those groups as well as community housing providers, but we are limited in what we can really do.
Yeah, so just yesterday we had this meeting, the Housing Working Group, which is the government agencies, councils and the community housing providers, Salvation Army, basically sharing this information and advocating for the Tasman region in terms of the housing need that we have.
Do you need someone to move the report?
I could do, thank you.
Yeah, happy to.
And Councillor Mayling.
Well, thank you for your report. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy to second. The interesting thing I found was the slowdown was less than what I thought it would be, but maybe the next set of stats will show that. But the concerning bit was the brownfield development, particularly in Nelson City, that's nowhere near the percentage that we put in the FDS going forward. So we're going to be well behind the 8 ball going forward because it's well below what they said would happen. and it's not happening. And we all know brownfield is not cheap. We've got a very good example of it up here with these properties opposite BP were $1 million. So, and they're not big townhouses, so they're even more expensive than buying a new house down in Berryfields. But the concern I have really is the brownfield development that isn't happening. And that will just put more pressure on our rural land and greenfield development. Any comment about Nelson? Have they acknowledged that they're not doing it?
So a couple of things there through the chair. So yeah, in terms of the slowdown, I agree. I think in the next report we might see slightly different data because we are seeing a decline in the resource consents of subdivisions. So what that means is it will have less sections created and then less building consents in due course. So probably the next report might show a bit of a different picture. Yeah, in terms of Nelson's capacity, so you're referring there to the greenfield, brownfield split, I think, and I think it was 87% for both of us in terms of greenfield consents rather than brownfield. So that was quite interesting. Obviously, their current plan change that's out is hoping to implement intensification, but a key part of that is going to be the servicing that they're going to provide for that as well. So I think we'll have to wait until their long-term plan has been settled and see where that all lands.
It's another area, isn't it, where you're working hard in a very thorough way, and it's not that satisfying in terms of where we end up. And often there's a call I hear, why doesn't council do something about this? Council's not doing enough, and we need to build houses and make them affordable. And yeah, I imagine other ward councillors may hear that as well, certainly at home. But there are, I don't want to steal anyone else's thunder, but you know, we do have a project at home that's just very early stages of thinking. So there certainly are people out in the community too who are trying to find resolution, trying to find homes that are affordable and are appropriate for a range of need in the community. Certainly value your work and the way that you go about what you're doing. It's been moved and seconded. Oh, Councillor McKenzie, do you want to?
No, sorry, I self-served and found my information myself.
Excellent. Excellent. You get the chocolate fish for the day. If there's nothing further, I'll put the resolution that we receive, the monitoring report. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Welcome, Matt. Building Insurance Manager 6 monthly report.
Good afternoon all. Through you, Madam Chair, I'll take my report as read. I will just do a quick summary of a few things. We are experiencing a bit of a downturn in building consent applications for new dwellings. Commercial and alterations are sort of staying pretty much the same. Excuse me. We've had one resignation in the past 6 months, and unfortunately it was a senior building consent officer. So probably going to be quite hard to replace. We've had ongoing recruitment throughout the year, and we're still 3 staff short, but again, it's hard to find anyone that's qualified or competent. And we're just a bit cautious about going through the training regime again because, yeah, we seem to just train people and they seem to move on. So we're just trying to work around things a bit differently. And obviously with the consent numbers down a bit, it'll give us a good chance to upskill the staff we are training currently. 5 of the staff are going through the Regulation 18 diploma for the building surveying diploma. They will be finished they're finished now, so all their assessments have been marked. So that's going to bring in, a few more in-house work. So we're sending less out to the contractors. We've got, I think when they're on their block courses, they have a week at a time. I think it's about between 4 and 6 weeks throughout the year, which is obviously downtime for processing, and we're sort of sending 50% out to contractors. But last month we were down. We're down to 27% getting out to contractors, so that's good. So the capability in house is increasing. Actually, this probably some really good news. We've just been through our BCA accreditation with IONS, and a really good result. We had 5 general non-compliances, which is, I think the last one we had was around 14. So it was sort of, really proud of my team. They've done an amazing job, like leading up to it. There's a lot of preparation work. There was a lot of good comments coming out of, from the assessors on how well the team works together and how we're following process, the preparation we had. Great experience for them being here. So, real proud of everyone. And it's just been, it was a pretty good experience, to be fair. Probably the best one I've been through. I've been through about 6 now. And, it was good. We've got till the 22nd of March to clear them. And we just put in last week our clearance plan. They have to accept our clearance plan before we can sort of clear the GNCs. They accepted them on Monday, I think it was. So, we're looking pretty good, to be honest. And real big thanks to Sally Blaine, who's our quality improvement officer. She's new in the role. She only took over in February this year, so big learning curve for her. We had a good handover, which I think was, probably a huge help towards our successes. Quite often we have we don't really have decent handovers when a staff member leaves, but we made sure we did in this instance. So it was definitely paid off. So, happy to take any questions.
Great, Matt, thank you. And good to have the successes acknowledged. I know you'll work away, beavering away, and it's good that that continual improvement. And it's such a shame we've got this ongoing matter around trying to find suitable staff. Councillor Kinnemont.
All right. Very good, Chair. Page 130 on your report. You've got a table there. It says, as of October 2023, you've had 249 pools removed, decommissioned. That's a hell of a lot of pools removed, decommissioned. Can you give me a bit of a heads up what that means?
Sorry, through the chair. Sorry. So that 249 being total, like ever. Yeah. No, ever. Like
ever.
Yeah. No, so it's not like 249. Since it might not be written very well, but no, that's ever.
So that's like 49 pools that were removed.
That were registered, but not now registered because they've been removed. Because quite often people just go, I don't use my pool, and maybe they don't like us coming around every 3 years as well.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification.
That's right.
Any other comments or questions? We're looking for a mover and a seconder to receive the 6-monthly report. Councillor Kinnemont's moving. Councillor Ellis was a second. All done? All in? I'll put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thanks, Matt.
Cool. Thank you.
We're going to move into a confidential session. Happy to move. A seconder, Councillor Ellis. The resolution is that the public be excluded from the following parts of the proceedings of this meeting. The general subject of each matter to be considered while the public is excluded. The reason for posting the resolution in relation to each matter and the special grounds under the Lack of Information Act. The passing of this resolution follows. This resolution is made in reliance on section 48(1)(a) of the Local Government Official Information on Meetings Act 1987. Got a grant and the particular interest or interest protected by section 6 or section 7 of that act, which will be prejudiced by the holding of the whole or relevant part of the proceedings of the meeting in public. All those in favour, please say aye.
Can you please repeat that?
Against carried.